to talk about one specific topic, and that is how to get rid of some of those weird, strange thoughts that enters our minds. What to do with those crazy, and most of the time, negative ones. I've actually never heard of anybody, please, anybody, if you have heard of somebody that complains, I have too many positive thoughts. Please let me know who that person is so I can go sit next to them and hopefully catch that disease. I've never heard anybody complain about that. People do complain that I've got negative thoughts. I've got thoughts coming into my brain that I don't like, they're unwelcome, they make me feel terrible. How do I get rid of them? And they keep coming back and they keep coming back. Who's experienced that? Let me just first ask, who's got sometimes thoughts going into your brain, and it's like if you had a tool you could push into your ear and pull them out like a worm, you probably would do that and flush them down the toilet. So I'm raising my hand because I've got thoughts like that. So I just want to check if I'm not the only one. There are some of the others as well. All right. Then at least we're in good company. Great minds think alike. Can I jump in? You know me by now. I'm not big on small talk. I want to jump in and I want to teach. Now, if you're new to this platform, let me just explain what is going to happen. I want to talk for a while. That's what I do for a living. I talk. And then at the end, I'm going to open the platform for questions, discussions, challenges, different thoughts, your ideas, whatever the case may be. All right, let's get into the chat tonight. Let's talk about negative thoughts and why do they come into our brains? What are they doing? Why are they there? Why are they there? And what can I do about them? And, how do I reframe and how do I change my thought patterns? What do I do? Am I in control of my thoughts? I mean, who of you guys somehow at some stage thought, I'm not in control. This stuff is just, I'm thinking about this, and then all of a sudden something else pops up. How does that happen? This is supposed to be my brain. Why are there thoughts entering my brain that are not welcome? Is there something wrong with me? Well, the first thing I want to tell you guys, it's nothing wrong with you. It's absolutely normal. It is very, very, very normal. In fact, negative thoughts are actually, I almost want to say, engraved into our genes. It's literally an absolute part of who we are as humans. We cannot really get rid of it. All right, let's talk about the first thing. When do we experience negative thoughts that enter our minds? The first thing we need to understand about them, which is quite interesting, is 99.9% of the time, they follow a positive thought. Usually we start thinking about dreams, aspirations, things we want to achieve, things we want to do that's going to give us pleasure, that's going to have satisfaction, that's going to bring fun into our lives, that's going to bring more love into our lives, that's going to bring more joy into our lives. When we have a positive thought pattern, that thought pattern, oddly, is the recording on now? Yes, Annette, it is. Leslie's recording. If we have a positive thought pattern, those positive thought patterns are interrupted by negative. That's one of the reasons why the negative thought stands out so much to us, because we're in this good dream state. Oh, I'm going to go on holiday. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to go down to the beach. Oh, COVID, lockdown's going to come in probably. I might not be able to go. And then the negative thought enters. When I said that now, who went, oh, yeah, that's true. It's usually when I'm having this positive string of thoughts that this negative one is almost like an interruption. So the first thing we need to understand about these negative thoughts is what I said earlier. They are actually extremely natural. It is as if they are engraved on our DNA. If we look at the way mankind survived, when we go back to Neanderthal man, when we were still hunters and gatherers, fear was a survival instinct. Having a negative thought, what it does to the brain in reality, it creates an alertness, a heightened awareness of our situation, of our environment, of possible things that could happen. And the possible things that could happen, unfortunately for us as humans still, are the things that could possibly kill us in the past. So think about a couple of 100 years ago. A man or woman walking in the bush with a spear in their hand, and they hear a sound. What would you think is a really good thought to have if you're walking alone in the middle of the jungle or a bush and you hear a strange sound? One of the best thoughts you could possibly have is maybe it is a wild animal that wants to eat me, because that will put your defense mechanism, that will heighten your awareness, your alertness, and that could possibly save your life. Now, imagine a couple of 100 years of this repetitive behavior in every human that lives past 3 months. It becomes a repeated behavior that literally gets transferred from parent to child. It's in our DNA, it's in our genes, it's part of who we are at the moment. The reason we see it as a problem is simply because our society, the way we interact, the way we live, our mechanism of our human culture at the moment has changed. We don't need that heightened level of alertness anymore. So what has happened is, because the brain wants to protect us, because remember now, your subconscious brain wants to serve you. It's your brain. It wants to do what you need to live the best life it believes you can live. So so think about it from this angle. Imagine you're born, and installed in you is 1 million red light alert signals. And this million is supposed to last a lifetime and save your life 1 million times. When you run out of them, you become naive and you don't care anymore, and then the bear will bite your head off, and then you die. But now we live in a society where we don't have as many wild animals. Well, we've got them in different shapes and forms, right? But we don't have the same type of wild animals walking around. So there's no need for, and I'm just metaphorically using it, the number of 1 million, there's no more use for us for 1 million red lights and warning signals going off. But they're still hovering. They're still ingrained in our DNA. They're still part of who we are as humans. They're built into our neural network. So what do they want to do? They want to function. And the original function, you have to remember, is to protect us as humans. So what are they going to do? They're going to look for reasons to come out. So the moment we go into a heightened emotion and our endorphins and our serotonin, all the happy chemicals are being produced in our brain, these warning signals go, hey, you just got to be careful. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. You don't know if there's a bear behind you, or a lion, or a creepy, weird person, animal. And it starts giving off warning signals. And what the brain does, the brain only interprets it the way it understands how to interpret it. So what the brain does, it interprets it as a negative thought. And we start hearing that voice outside of our brain. So typically what happens, let's assume for a moment you're dreaming a magnificent, audacious, hairy, scary, beautiful dream of achieving something glorious in your life. Now your brain is going into that positive direction. It's going into that dream state. It's going into that, this is going to be so cool state. And then a little voice comes in. Yeah, but maybe you're not good enough. Maybe you're too dumb. Maybe you're too short. Maybe you're too tall. Maybe you're too young. Maybe you're too old. Maybe this. What if this happens? What if that happens? What can go wrong? Do you know that statistically shows that so many businesses actually failed in their first year? This is maybe just not a good idea. Maybe you should just sit on the couch, eat hamburgers, and get fat. And it comes up with its own thoughts. Why is that happening? It's the way the brain is trying to figure out and unfold. But all it really wants to do is raise your awareness, heighten your focus, and make you more aware of what are different variety and possibilities. Does that make sense, guys? That's the reason it happens. So we need to firstly start off and understand the reason for it. So why then is it a problem? It's a problem because if there's too much of it, that's when it becomes a problem. It's when there's too much of it. The negative thoughts in themselves don't have a problem. is when we have too many of them, when they pop up too often, too easily, too quickly, too regularly, in every possible line of thought we have, they start coming up. That's when they become a problem. And the reason they become a problem is because they make us sad. They shift our state. They put us in a very negative state. And very often, if we stay in that negative state, or we enter that negative state on a regular basis, we go into what's called depression. If we have too many negative thoughts, if our brains are consumed with the negative thoughts, it physically starts affecting our bodies. People get physically sick because of it. That's why it's a problem. Because the thought itself does no harm. It's the result of the continuous, the repetitive, and the volume of the negative thoughts. That's when it becomes a problem. And it can, I know this sounds really strange, but it's unfortunately it's true. It can actually shorten your life. How insane is that? So why then do we entertain it? What is it about us? Because we're strange creatures. If you guys have driven on the highway and then there's a motor vehicle accident, what happens when that happens on the highway? Especially if it's a really bad, if cars roll and it's like a bad, big crash, boom, bang, 7 cars involved. What do the rest of us do? We slow down. Why? Because we want to be safe. No, because we're inquisitive. We want to see. There's something in the human brain that for some reason is sometimes very often attracted. Part of the human brain finds negative things entertaining. How can you say that? I don't know. Have you ever watched the news and there's, when COVID came out and how glued were you guys to the news channels when they spoke about COVID? Those first couple of times when the big man in the big chair in Parliament came on TV at 7 o'clock at night, we were all glued waiting for the bad news. We knew it was bad news coming and we were glued waiting in anticipation for it. For some strange reason, we as humans, to a certain extent, are sometimes attracted to negative thoughts and bad news. It stimulates us in a very strange way. And herein lies the problem. Because at some stage in your life, you have negative thoughts come in. Now you invite them to a party. And what do? We invite a whole lot of other negative thoughts to the same party. And now we have this big party of negative thoughts. And we go, whoa, we speak. And we put on country music in the background. And we open a bottle of whiskey. And we get sad, and we find our friends, and we tell them, I love you so much. You're such a big part of my life. But you don't know what struggles I'm going through. And we have what we call a little bit of a pity party with ourselves. And we allow it to happen because some part of us actually does need it at a certain level. And we do have a positive experience from it. The problem is what we do when that happens. Now, come on, guys. You're all sitting here with straight faces. Is there anybody in this room that's never, ever had a pity party? Never, ever in your entire life. Come on, even if it was just for 5 minutes. Oh, this negative thought is so bad. And something in it's bad. This is also bad. You sort of invited a couple of other negative friends around. Is there let's ask this question. Is there anybody here that's prepared to admit they've also had it? No? Come on. Let's be real. All right. So here's what happens. The moment that happens, the moment we entertain, and I'm using that word very specifically, the moment we entertain a negative thought, it stimulates some of the neuron pathways in the brain. And through that stimulation, it strengthens very particular neuron pathways in the brain. If we entertain it enough, if we allow it to enter, if we allow the repetitive behavior in it, part of the brain says this is the norm. This human is allowing it, therefore this human chooses it and wants more of it. let's create more neuron pathways. Our brain is constantly pruning pathways that it's not being used and developing new ones it believes we need. When you were young, 5, 6 years old, you could pick up a language quickly. You could learn a new language and speak it fluently within about a year. Now that you're a little bit older, how long will it take you to learn a new language now? How tough is it to learn a new language? Extremely. The reason is simple. When you were 5 years old, your brain created language learning neuron pathways. Why? Because you needed it. Your brain believed you need to communicate with other people. Therefore, you need to learn language. Therefore, it needs to create the pathways. But at some stage, you stopped learning language or new language. You honed the one you had, but you stopped learning new language. So what did your brain do? Well, you're not using those neurons. Let me prune them, cut them out. So the brain is constantly shaping itself according to what it believes you need. And if you entertain negative thoughts often enough, the brain starts believing it serves you, and it creates strong pathways in the neural network that allows negative thoughts to enter your brain. So, who's responsible for your negative thoughts? Oh my goodness gracious, it's your brain. Oh yes, so these. Oh yeah, it's me. Yeah, we're responsible for it. So, can we change it? Can we teach our brains to reform the neuron pathways? Solid answer, yes. That's the good news. How is the first question. The first concept we need to understand, and I'm going to give you guys 5 techniques, but before I go to the techniques, the first concept we need to understand. Thoughts are the best way I can describe it. Think about a room full of people, but a lot of people, it's crowded. And you're on the one side of the room, but you want to get to the door, which is on the other side of the room. You now need to navigate your way through these people, right? To get to the other side, logically. Now, let's assume you don't really know these people so well. And there are clear signs that some of them are quite aggressive and scary. In fact, some of them come across so aggressive that part of you knows if you look them in the eye, you're going to be in trouble. So how are you going to navigate through that room? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to have an awareness of them in your peripheral view. You're going to look down to the ground, to the bottom half of their body, so you don't look them in the eyes. And you're going to navigate a path so you don't bump them out of the way, but you're going to sort of squeeze through the group and you're going to make it to the other side of the room. Yes? That's the logic way. Who of you guys are going to go up to one of the big guys that looks really aggressive, that scares you? And you know, if you look him in the eye, probably not going to be a good idea. You're going to run up to him and you're going to go, hey, what are you looking at? Any one of you guys going to do that? No, you're not. Of course you're not. Unless you want your head back then. We're going to navigate our way through them. All right, so Ned might go up because you're going to hug them and just give them a flower. All right. So we're going to navigate through them. We're going to try and get past into the other side without getting in any form of conflict with them. That makes logic sense. The strangest thing is when we think about negative thoughts are your own internal dialogue that bullies your brain into a certain state. And what we very often do, and here's the mistake we make, we think we can stand up to them. And we stand up to these negative thoughts, we look them in the eye and say, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. I don't like you. Go away, you negative thought, you. And we start talking to it. What we're actually doing is we are just making it stronger. We are feeding it. We're giving it attention. Hello? So one of the first ways, and here comes the 5 little techniques. How do we navigate through the crowd? First step is talk to it, but properly. Now, if I'm going to talk to it negatively, in other words, negative thought, I don't want you here. I don't want to think, let's think about something. I'm dreaming about achieving a goal, and my one negative thought that comes up is, Dion, you're too old for it. Now, what a lot of people do is they try and through some kind of affirmation, change the way they think. So they say, I don't want to think about the fact that I'm too old. I'm not too old. I'm not too old. I'm not too old. I'm not too old. Now, the first thing we need to understand is your brain doesn't negate. It doesn't understand a negative instruction. So if I tell you something that I don't want you to do, like don't think about a pink elephant, you're going to think about a pink elephant. Your brain doesn't negate it. Your subconscious mind does not understand do or don't. It's just concept. So if you say to yourself, you're too old, you're not too old, you're not too old, you're not too old, what your subconscious brain is hearing is purely an affirmation of the negative thought. It is hearing, you're too old, you're too old, you're too old. Does that make sense? So you want to talk to it, but there's a secret in how you talk to it. Now, the first thing you need to do, now, just remember, I'm talking here, you want to talk to it. Let me just explain one thing very, very clearly. When you have negative thoughts, thoughts are also internal dialogues we're having. Very seldom do we only have one voice going on in our heads at a time. Human beings are internal schizophrenics. We have multiple voices in our heads. There's a voice in your head at the moment going, this is interesting. I wonder what else is going to tell me. This chair I'm sitting on is very uncomfortable. I really need some coffee now. I wonder what I'm going to do tomorrow. Come on. You've got more than one voice going on inside of your head at the moment. So welcome to the club. You are an internal schizo. That means you're normal. If you only have one single voice, there is seriously something wrong with you. We have multiple voices in our heads. So when we talk about thoughts and we use the word thoughts, what we are actually referring to is the internal conversations we're having with ourselves. Because the moment I say I'm too old, there's another part that says, no, you're not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Well, did you see yourself in the mirror? Did you notice you cannot touch your toes the same way you did 10 years ago? The other day when you greeted that young hot girl, she said, hello, well, there's enough proof. So all these things come up into your brain that keeps telling you, it's like this weird conversation that's going on. You're trying to fight it and have this argument with it. So what you need to do first and foremost is you need to take its power away. So how do we take its power away? Very easy. Same way you take a bully's power away. Firstly, you thank it. You say, hello, accept it, recognize it. Say, hey, thought, I'm hearing you. I'm not sure where you're coming from, but I hear you. Thank you for being here, for stimulating my awareness. See what I'm doing? I'm twisting it. Now, I'm not saying it's a negative thought. I'm giving it a power in the sense, thank you for stimulating my awareness. I'm shifting the impact the negative thoughts has on me because I'm now thanking it. Thank you for increasing my awareness. I got it. What's next, smarty ass? Thank you for increasing my awareness. I got it. Now, think about this quickly. If you were in a conversation with someone and that person and the other person was constantly telling you, you're too old, you're too old, you're too old, and you're going, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, 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 I'm not. What is going to happen with that conversation? It's just going to go into around a circle. It's going to be a never-ending argument, right? Well, what if you interrupt that conversation? You go, thank you. Thank you for stimulating my awareness. Got it. So you, what have you just done? You've taken the sting. Ooh, someone's mute. You've taken the sting out of the conversation. You've taken the other person's power away. That's step one. First thing you want to do, recognize it, greet it, say hello, say thank you for, and then say something positive. Thank you for increasing my awareness. Thank you for making me smarter. Thank you for creating a different thought pattern in my brain, a better one. Does that make sense, guys? Our subconscious brain wants to serve us. It wants to do what we ask of it. It wants to do what we ask of it. If it thinks what we ask of it are negative thoughts, it'll give us more. If it thinks it wants to give us positive thoughts, it'll give us more. So if I take a negative thought and I reframe it in my subconscious into a positive, the subconscious mind goes, oh, they're like positive. Let me give you more. You cannot attack a negative thought. You cannot try and suppress a negative thought. You cannot ignore a negative thought. All of those behaviors makes it stronger. You got to take its sting out. That's the first thing you can do. Or one thing you can do. Does that make sense? All right. The cool one is the next one is kind of cool. And the next step I want to teach you guys is something that I do a lot of. I do this often. Now, let me explain how the brain functions before I explain this process. Our brains, the one thing about us as humans, what differentiates us from most animals is the fact that our brains can think in sequence. There's a construct to our thoughts. Our thoughts have process, strategy, sequence. Now, earlier on, I mentioned that very often when a negative thought comes in, it follows a positive one. We have this positive thought structure going through, and this negative one sticks its head out. What the brain has learned is that is my structure of thinking. That's my thinking strategy. That's my recipe. I've used this recipe before. It gave me a result. Therefore, it works. Therefore, my brain wants to replicate it. So what I can do is I can teach my brain a new thinking strategy, a new structure on how to have its own internal dialogue. And there's only one way to teach your brain to do that, and that is to write. Writing forces the brain to put your thoughts in a logical sequence. Because when I write, I have to think structured. Otherwise, my writing is going to look like a dictionary that was just scrambled together. There's got to be a sequence in which I place the words for the writing to make sense. So why am I saying writing and not just speaking? When I write, more of my senses are activated. When I write, and I'm talking about writing, I'm not talking about typing. There's a difference between the two. When I write, something happens on a kinesthetic level. My physiology is involved in the process. Have you noticed that sometimes when you write, if you're in a romantic mood, you write differently to what you would if you're in an angry mood? If you're going to leave someone you love a message, and it's a very positive, romantic message, you're going to write differently. You're going to have longer up and down strokes of your pen. If you want to leave the same person a written message when you're in a bad mood and angry at them, you're going to have different horizontal strokes with your pen. And you're going to apply a little bit more pressure on the pen. Sometimes you're going to punch a hole right through the paper. There's a difference in the physiology response when we write. So here's the secret behind it. Not only are you teaching your mind to reconstruct your thoughts, you're also teaching your physiology how to react and respond different. So what do you want to write? When you get a negative thought that comes into your brain, ask yourself a simplistic question. What is the reverse in positive? So if your brain said, you're told, what's the reverse in positive? I'm old enough to know better. I've got many years of experience. Wisdom, knowledge, patience, and stubbornness is my gift. I notice things in people and see the possibility and the results that is in their future because I've had those experiences numerous of times before. Therefore, I'm wiser. My age is my gift to self. Now, you need to write that. When you write it, as you write it, your body experiences the writing. Number two, first sense. Now, second sense that it's operating. When we write, we say it to ourselves in our brains. I'm hearing it internally. Second sense. When I write it, I also read it. My third sense. So writing activates 3 of the 5 senses. That's the reason why writing physically with a hand is such a powerful tool. So when the negative thought comes in, grab a piece of paper and start writing a positive love letter to yourself. That is the reverse of the negative thought. Now, the benefit of it is for you to be able to write a positive love letter to yourself, you need to construct your thoughts in a specific sequence. So what are you doing now? You are forcing your brain to think in a sequence, a strategy of positive thoughts. Now, what if I do that often? What if I do that 2 or maybe even 3 times a day? What if I repeat that behavior consistently over the next year? What is going to happen is inside of my brain, my neuron network is going to realize I'm doing this behavior, forced behavior on a regular basis. Let's make it automatic and easy for Dion's brain. Let's start doing it spontaneously. And the brain starts creating neuron pathways that shifts very easily and quickly from a negative thought, reframing it into an empowering thought. Now, here's the key. I'm not saying those negative thoughts are going to go away. But what is going to happen is when they pop up, they're not going to linger. Because your brain is going to take that, reframe it, turn it around into a positive and reconstruct it by default, automatically. Does that make sense, guys? The cool thing about it is I've been doing that for quite a few years, and it works. Well, a couple of years ago, I didn't think I was too old. That thought started popping into my brain quite recently. So I had to reframe that. Another thought came into my brain, and very often, and I must be honest here, when I have these conversations with Dion, most of the time I talk about struggles I'm experiencing. And for the last couple of weeks, I've been struggling with a specific thought that kept popping into my brain. And that thought was, you're tired. You need a break. You need to rest. You're exhausted. Every time I want to do something, my brain said, yes, but you're tired. And you know what's the worst part of it? I somehow feel tired. That is, well, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm tired. Look at me. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I want to hold my head up. I can't hold it up myself. I'm so tired. And that kept going through my brain. And 2 days ago, I decided, you know what, this is absolutely nonsense. I am allowing my internal dialogue to lie to me and tell me I'm tired. Maybe I'm not. What if? Here's the second secret, or the third one. What if there's a possibility that I'm actually energized? And what will happen if I am? I could possibly do a variety of physical activities that will make me healthier and more energized. So what's the secret? Third step you can apply. Use the correct language when a negative thought comes in. Very often what we do when a negative thought comes in, we go to what I call rule language, law language. Law language has got words like must, have to, should, shouldn't, mustn't. Possibility language has words what if, I wonder, and maybe I could. What will happen if? It opens up the brain to more opportunities and options, positive ones. Rule language is the language of slaves. You must, you have to. Rule language creates resistance. As human beings, we resist rules. We want freedom. We want choice. We want options. We want variety. If I say to myself, Dion, you must be positive, you must be positive, you must be positive, you must be positive, because it's rule language, subconsciously there's resistance. If I say to myself, I wonder what would happen if I'm more positive. What could be the most glorious thing that might happen? And will I? And how much will I enjoy it? Can you hear my language? One of the things we need to do when negative thoughts come in, we try and attack it with rule language. Instead of taking out its sting, reframing it, and switching over to options language, opportunity language. Easy peasy. Or is it? That is. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. In the beginning, it's going to take a little bit of energy and effort. It's probably even going to feel weird, but not as weird as the fourth step. So what's the fourth step? The fourth step is a very simple process of derailing. Derailing what? Derailing that thought. And the technique or the process we use to describe it is called a pattern interrupt. So imagine a train on a rail, and it's going chicka, 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 chicka. I don't know, this train still goes chicka, 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 chicka. Imagine this train on the rail going chicka, 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 chicka. So you guys are seeing your parents sitting with a spoon of food going, come on, open up, nice. That's it, chicka, 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 train incoming. Yum, 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 yum. All right. Train's on the rail going chicka, 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 chicka. But you don't like where the train is going. What do you need to do? Well, the simplest thing, the most likely thing is derail it. Derail it. So when negative thoughts linger too long, derail them. How? Only one way. Move physically. You got to move. But the weirder your movement and the more fun your movement, the bigger the derailment. So what's one of the best movements you can do? Dance weirdly. Yeah, come on, Sanet, let's go. Remember the sprinkler. Staying alive, staying alive. Get some funky moves in your body. What happens when you do that? Your mind and your body are part of the same cybernetic system. They're not separated. When we move in a certain way, the brain literally goes, oh, wait a minute. Dale's in a happy mood. Let me be happy. And the brain starts producing happy chemicals and it changes the way it thinks. Now, what do you think is, and I've spoken about this before, and some of you guys will remember this. I really hope some of you guys do. What is the one movement apart from dancing that you cannot do in a negative emotional state? Well, laughing. Well, I don't know. I've laughed and cried at one stage, and it's like sneezing, coughing, and farting at the same. Sometimes these weird stuff just go together. It is a possibility. But here's the one thing. Did you know that you cannot skip when you're in a bad mood? That's the weirdest thing. Try it. Next time you're in a bad mood, try and skip. You just can't. But you can skip really well if you're in a good mood. So what do I do when I go into a negative state? We'll skip. Hey, Dion, but I work in a corporate, and the offices are glass, but, we're not allowed to skip. Yes, you are. I was at a corporate, I did my first corporate event a couple of weeks ago since lockdown started, a live one where I went to a corporate and there was this big scientific lab. And you had all these scientists with their coats, literally looked like one of these SpaceX movies with the guys working in these weird labs. I was wondering what they were creating there, but apparently they did great work. And I was teaching a whole lot of their staff, and this concept came up, and I started skipping in the classroom. I was skipping up and down, and they were loving it. You guys, you need to pattern interrupt. You need to derail the path you're on sometimes. And the only way you can do that is by doing a physical movement that will stimulate the brain and tell it to create happy chemicals. And there's two ways of doing that. Well, there's three ways. The one way is to dance. But weirdly, man, come on, dance like nobody's watching. Dance like you stole the music. It's just like, yeah, swagger. And some of you guys, if you do it, just close the curtains first. You don't really want to scare the neighbors too much. But dance. The second way, skip. And the third way, go see Diana. She's a laughter coach. Coach. She's a laughter couch. A laughter coach. Laugh. Find something to laugh about. There's a lot of things to laugh about. And the best thing we can usually laugh about is ourselves sometimes. We just really, come on. All right. If you like that fourth one, who like that one? Move, dance, skip. Who feels like skipping right now? You just want to go and see if you still can. When's the last time you skipped? Think about that quickly. When is the last time you skipped? Do you remember how happy you were as a kid when you skipped? It's like, so lekker. Hello? And by the way, it's very good exercise. Most of you guys, if you're going to skip 20 meters tonight, tomorrow morning, you're going to struggle to get out of it. It's like, oh, what happened to this body? Oh, I used muscles. I forgot that was there. It's good exercise as well, so you might as well, yeah? All right. Oh, I love it. All right, let me see some hands. Who's going to skip? Who's going to try and skip later? Come on. Come on. Commit to it, guys. Just do it. Put your hand up. Let's go skipping. Not skip with a rope. Skip. Like, yeah. All right, 10 minutes. Okay, here's the last one. This is a brilliant one. It's for those that love meditation, you can use this. And if you love breath work, this works. So I've got a little sequence that I did. And I know some of you guys are going to go, oh, doing it the wrong way around. Just hear me out, hear the process, hear all the steps. All right. So what I'll do is a thought will come up, and I'm aware of this thought. Okay, the first thing I'll do is I'll say, hello, you're welcome. Thank you for your gift you bring. You're creating a stronger and heightened awareness. I know you're here for a reason, but I'm going to reframe you. I want to put you in a different picture. So I'll take that thought. So let's assume for a moment my thought was I'm too old. All right. I'll do a sequence of breaths, and the sequence of breaths are in. Second sequence, hold, 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 and relax it out. Yeah. Second sequence, repeat the first. So in, hold, and out. But what do we do on these breaths? So here's the strange way that I've done it, and it works for me. Test it if it works for you. Please do it. My first in-breath is the thought. I don't know some of you guys going, you're breathing in a negative energy. Listen, I don't know. It works for me. I'll breathe in. I'm too old. In the hold, that's where I acknowledge it. I thank it for the heightened focus. I honor it. So you're part of my thoughts. You're here for a reason. Bringing me a gift. I'm grateful for it. Now my brain is going from a negative into a positive empowered state. And I hold my breath until I feel that positive feeling shift inside of me. It actually happens quite quickly. And as I feel that, I release it into the universe, to the magnificent world that I live in. Then I breathe in again. And I breathe in what? Exactly what I've just released. So remember now, I breathe in, first thought, the negative thought. Hold it, reshape it into a positive until I feel that, thank it, say hello, positive gift, empowerment. Release empowerment into the universe. In breath, this feeling of empowerment. Now I hold it and I see a better me. I visualize that empowerment shaping. I don't know, this sounds weird. I actually see it reshaping my cells in my body, making them more pretty, making them more beautiful, making them positive. Visualize it. So if I'm thinking I'm too old and I'm getting empowered, you know what I'm going to visualize? A younger me. Oh yeah. Visualize it. Now feel that visualization. You know what I breathe out? Gratitude. Why did I do that? I believe in the flow of abundance and positiveness. Hoarding, not a good thing. I like it coming in, do its thing, and I allow it to flow out. Why? Because there's more than enough positiveness and positivity, bliss, joy, and happiness, love, and gloriousness in this world. It's in the air we breathe. I don't have to hold it. I can allow it to come in, do its thing, and I can reset back so everybody else can have a share of it. And you know what? My next breath I take, I'm breathing some of it in again as well, because it's around me. But I need to reshape my neuron pathways so that I can experience it. And I use this process to do that. So there's your 5 steps. Straightforward, simple. The concept we need to understand about my internal dialogue is simply thoughts is me talking to me. And 80% of that me talking to me is merely your imagination. Most of the things that you have negative thoughts around never happen. We know this. Yeah. Negative thoughts is merely you submitting to the part of your imagination that tells the scary stories. All we need to do is to teach the brain to submit more often to the part of the imagination that tells the nicer stories. Now, there is a very fine line between being naive and taking control. Being naive is when we have negative thoughts and we go, I don't have any. These won't harm me. That's naive. That's actually lying to yourself. Taking control of it is also not, I don't have any negative thoughts. They never enter my mind. I'm always in a positive state. Well, if you are always in a positive state, hang on to after the session. I would really like to talk to you, and I might even come to your house and worship you, because then you must surely be a God. Because then you're perfect. The line where we want to be is not never having negative thoughts, because we need them for survival. If you want to cross a road, what is the thing that tells you to look left, look right, and look left again? It's the fear of being run over by a car, right? I mean, you want to have a little bit of a heightened, focused awareness of your surroundings when you cross the road. You don't want to just cross it blindly. There's no negative in me, no car will come. Gone. Not a good idea. That's naive. Yep. We need to be aware that in certain cases, in certain situations, these thoughts serve us. They're not my enemy. When there's too much of them, they could have a negative effect on me, and therefore I need to take control of it. You see the difference? Aloha. The type of thoughts we feed in our brains is what we will have more of, because our neuron pathways will develop accordingly. Cool? Who's in control of your brain? You are. Who's in control of the volume of negative thoughts? You are. If you don't want that many, who can change it? Ghostbusters! No, you. All right. You're in control of it. You can take control. You can change it.